talking about the mind, body, soul connection experience, our body and our body and our mind and our souls are all connected. So this experience is just about for you to be able to look at things from a holistic approach, because many a times when we get ill physically, we go to the doctor and they prescribe to us a medication for that physical illness, but the physical illness might have been caused as a result of the internal illness that we have. And when I talk about the internal illness, I'm talking about those emotional wounds that we've not been able to address. So that manifests in form of the physical illness, basically. So, and if we only look at it from the perspective of just treating the symptoms of like the physical illness, what happens is we're just numbing and numbing and numbing, and we're not actually, addressing the situation, basically. So this exercise that I'm just going to take you through is just for us to get to see how our mind and body and our soul are all connected, and it's an experience for you to just feel that. So I want you to put yourself in a comfortable position now. We will be doing, it's a mindfulness exercise that will be able to make you to just connect with yourself, basically. So if you just place yourself in a comfortable position, and just if you're seated on a chair, just rest your back on the chair. If you're seated, let's say, on a bed and there's a wall behind you, you can just rest your back on the wall. Just relax, relax, and take a deep breath. So slowly, just close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm here. So you can just slowly close your eyes and take a deep breath in and exhale. Now do that again. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Now I want you to picture yourself seated in front of a coastal beach, resting on a sand lounger, and your back is just resting on that sand lounger, and you can feel the heat on that sand lounger, on the piece of cloth that you're wearing, and you can feel the heat, and you're just resting, and you're just relaxing there, and just watching the waves of the sea. Just take a deep breath. You're watching the waves of the sea as it comes and goes and comes and goes. Now you're holding a lemonade in your right hand. It's a cold lemonade with some ice cubes. It's a mint lemonade, and you've got a straw in the glass, and you're just sipping from the straw. And as you sip, you just you're tasting the tangy citrus, as combined with the cool mint, and you're just feeling really nice about that. And just you're sipping that as you're watching the waves of the sea. You're relaxed. You are not stressed about anything, because obviously the environment where you are, you're just feeling distressed. So you're just sipping that, and you're tasting the cool mint and the tangy citrus. Now take a deep breath and you're starting to feel your salivating. And does your mouth pucker? Just, just relating to that. So I want you to slowly now open your eyes. And I will open in a bit just the platform for the audience to just let us know what that experience felt like and whether you actually really salivated during that process. So if you can, type in the chat and just let us know, or you can just unmute yourself. I'll just give it a minute so that you can just let us know what the experience has been like.
Yes, Khadija, we can't hear you. So sorry, my video is not on. Yes, we can't hear you, Khadija. You're on mute. Yeah, I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Sorry. How about
Yeah,
now?
now. Yeah, now
Have
it's
you
fine.
been
Now.
have you been hearing everything that I said before
Yes,
this? All
yes,
right.
yes, yes. We can do. We can.
Right.
You're clear.
Can you just let us know of like the feedback on the chat basically?
Yeah, someone said that it was relaxing. Alhamdulillah.
Have we got any more feedback in the chat?
No.
Okay, so we will progress to the next section of our webinar today. So we have we've taken you through a journey, the journey of learning. The first thing that we've discussed in the morning was if it's morning, it was morning for me, and if it was afternoon for you from wherever you are in the world. So basically the first aspect that we discussed was what was resilience, and the different aspects of resilience, and also how the unresolved past has a huge impact on our present and the future. And then we also talked about the false attachments and how that sabotages us as well. So as we are looking at the what we're looking at is a holistic approach basically of 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 being able to heal ourselves from a holistic approach. And the first thing that I would say is really important in terms of being able to start that healing process is what we have in here: our beliefs, and what we believe, and what we hold ourselves to. So it's just going back to what we spoke about earlier, the stories that we tell ourselves. And as I will quote again the hadith al-Qudsi, Allah tells us, "I am as my servant thinks of me." So when we think of good about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will create more blessings through that process. But when we are consistently feeling the negative, we're always negative, and we look at things from that perspective, then our thoughts create our reality, and we end up in that scenario whereby we are consistently recreating the same experiences that we are actually running away from basically. So in starting with this whole process, first of all, I think what is really key and important for us to learn through this process is being able to know what is in our control and what's not in our control. And in terms of, thinking about, our thoughts and behaviors and actions and attitudes and perspectives, relating to that is in our control. Yes, we can be able to try our best to change a situation, to try to empower people so that they can be able to change, or try to change an experience. But the question is we need to learn what's in our control. And when we've done everything that's within our control, and when I talk about control, I'm talking about the actions that we can take so that we can be able to move ourselves, forward, and being able to make, those decisions. And then moving on to that, this is actually, we call it the circles of concern, influence, and control, which is adapted from Steve Covey, who is the writer of the seven habits of highly effective people, basically. And then the next circle is what is it, if it's not in my control, can I influence it? So is it something within my home environment that I can be able to influence it? So I cannot like control what's going to happen to me or the situation I find myself in it. But the question is, can I be able to influence this situation so that I can be able to make, a positive experience out of it? Can I be able to find that silver lining that, Saleha was talking about? Yes, we've gone through this whole pandemic. Yes, there's a lot of things, that we don't like about it, but are there some aspects to it that actually have been a blessing for us? For those of us who've been like, working and traveling, so it's reduced, the amount of time that we're on the road, basically. So that's a blessing in itself. Looking at it from the perspective of, yes, you might have, lost, let's say, for example, a job or whatever it is. But let's say in that scenario, you've actually been able to get a better job through that process, so it's just being able to actually look for that silver lining and being able to, be grateful for whatever the situation, and just, trying to, influence it in a positive way. And then when it comes to like, the finances as well, like let's say, for example, if let's say, you're having, you're having financial struggles, but can you be able to influence in a way that whereby you can actually manage your budget, manage what goes out? Because now things are tight, yes, but look at it from the perspective of actually, what, I can be able to manage my budget, and many of the things that I actually do not need, I can actually be able to have a positive way of, spending my money, because most of these things that I've been buying through the process, let's say perfumes or other things, as you will know, more, as women, we tend to like shopping. So it's just, being able to look at it from that perspective. And then in terms of my health, for example, yes, you've been gifted with this disease, or health condition, but can you be able to look at it from the perspective of, actually, I can make good out of it. I can be able to learn how to live life in a better way. I can be able to change my nutrition, that I become, a stronger human being through this process. Or am I just going to be seated there and feeling helpless about my situation, and not doing anything, and in fact eating the wrong things, and then I'm ending up being more sick through that process? And then also, like in terms of, the children, if you have children, you've been blessed with children, yes, you can be able to influence your child to do certain things, and through that process. But it's also like just learning that when they become an adult, you will have to learn that, you have to let go of trying to control what they're doing and not really controlling them. It's more about, you know, motivating them through that process, and just trying, as you know, as a child, motivating them through that process so that they can be able to feel, you know, motivated, so that they can do whatever that you would like for them to do. So let's say, for example, it's a child who doesn't, you know, doesn't like to do academic work. So you can find a way of trying to influence them, you know, let's say, for example, in terms of trying to, you know, sit down with them and, you know, revise with them their papers, so that they can be able to feel motivated and feel this is actually, this process is actually a bonding time for me and my parents, basically, or my caregiver. And then when we get to learn that it's not in our control, and we're not able to actually influence it, because there are things that in life that we cannot be able to influence it. We have to accept them for what they are. So we need to learn how to accept them. One of the examples that, you know, we've all had to learn the hard way is this pandemic. You know, initially in the beginning, you know, there was a lot of, you know, complaining and a lot of whining about it, but now we have to accept that, you know what, it's actually gonna be here for a while. The question is, how are we planning to live with it the way it is? How are we planning to be able to adopt a lifestyle whereby, you know, with this new normal, that we are not going to be having, you know, the public, you know, gatherings, you know, closely and all this and that? Are we going to be looking at it from that perspective of, okay, this is what the new reality is? You know, am I willing to accept it for what it is? And then, for example, like, you know, our past, we've spoken about a lot about, you know, the past in the beginning of the webinar today. So it's just coming to that acceptance. Yes, we've gone through all these experiences, and it's happened the way they are. We cannot change anything about it. We cannot be able to influence anything, because it's just what it is. So the question is now, what are we gonna do with that, you know, past experience to inform our future? So use it as a wisdom, so that we can be able to you know, we can be able to actually inform, you know, and make a good experience out of it, making good out of every situation, basically. So, and then the other thing that I spoke about is, you know, the adult children, or, you know, let's say, for example, Kaniz in the morning talked about, you know, the mother-in-law aspect of it. So basically, not, you know, obviously the mother-in-law not trying to control her daughter-in-law, but also, you know, the daughter-in-law is not trying to control her mother-in-law. So when she comes to her home, or to her home, she's able to welcome her, respect her for who she is, and accept her for who she is. And also the other way around. And in a scenario whereby, let's say, they're living together, then being able to set, you know, some sort of boundaries in a very nice way, whereby each of you is able to have their sort of space, kind of creating sort of some space, and being able to respect each other within that environment, without having to create, you know, create like a negative experience out of it. And also, like, just let's say, for example, you're living with your mother-in-law, and you're, you know, you can be able to actually do activities together, so that you can get to learn each other through this process. You know, you can go out together, you can do some shopping together. Sometimes you can say, oh, let's go for a walk together. You know, sometimes you can say, okay, let's, you know, cook together. And if either of you is feels, you know, maybe you don't want to cook together, so you can do other activities together. So it's just building that relationship and building that friendship, and just learning that what we can control and what we cannot control, basically. So I can see there's something that popped up in the chat. Saleha, are you able to let us know what has popped up in the chat before I carry on?
I'm not seeing anything there, Khadija.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sasha. So I'll carry on. So basically, you know, going back going to the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, that he does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. So whatever the situation that we've experienced in, in the past, it's something that we could, we could be able to, bear either way, like as an adult, whatever that we're tested with, we can be able to bear. But the question is, when we're told that verse, we tend to think that we need to bear, we need to, be able to bear in that situation. But it's about being able to, when we say that, it's about being able to build those muscles. So this ayah is telling us how, like, we can be able to build those muscles, because we are tested with the different things. We cannot grow until we experience certain things, and we cannot be able to build the wisdom that we're building without experiencing certain things. And I do, I strongly believe there's wisdom in trauma. So going through things in life is not a bad thing. It's actually, it can be a wisdom for you. It can be something that you can be able to move forward and be able to empower other people so that they can learn. Yes, they were not able to have any control because, as Sasha said in the morning, that, we are, when we're young, we obviously do not have that ability to be able to do things for ourselves. So yes, but then we can use that as a wisdom to be able to help other people. And this life is not perfect, and we shouldn't be expecting perfection in this life. So it's just about being able to make a good meaning and interpretation of whatever experience that we've gone through, so that we can be able to move ourselves forward. So now I will be, putting, I'll be giving you these questions basically, so that you can be able to think about whatever, whatever situation that we're going through, rather than going into that autopilot mode that most of the time, our society has taught us is feeling as a victim of our situation and our, and the experiences. What we should be asking ourselves is, what is this experience teaching me? What do I need to change? Most of the time we tend to think that, certain experiences is because of, let's say the situation itself or other people, whatever. But maybe it's communicating to us that there's something that we need to change. We need to change so that we can be able to have better experiences. And then the other question that we should be asking ourselves is, what can I control? So most of the time we tend to put ourselves in, going back to those circles of control, influence and concern. Most of the time we are in that zone of the circle of concern. We're worried about everything around us, from the news that is feeding us with all the negative, negative things that, just triggers all our negative emotions, to the pandemic, to, let's say, something someone said about us, to whatever it is. And then we are stuck in that situation of just worrying about, all the things that we are concerned about. But all those things that we are concerned about, we can actually, we do not even we don't have any control over it. The only thing that we can be able to control is how we can respond to it, not react to it. Because when we react, we're not really helping ourselves, and we're not able to move ourselves forward. And then the other question is to ask, can I influence it? So let's say we're not happy, like right now we have, there's a lot going on in the Palestinian world. And, we're praying so much that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for them. But how can we be able to influence this? Yes, we can go out there and, put the message for the people to be able to support them and everything. And at the end of the day, we need to remind ourselves that we can't control the situation, but all we can do, the best we can do actually, is to pray for them and be able to just influence and try to influence policy through that process. And then the next question that we should be asking ourselves is, what can't I control and influence? So going back to the circle of concern that I talked about, there's a lot in our circle of concern, you know, and we just need to we just need to consistently remind ourselves that it's in our circle of concern, and unfortunately we do not have control over it. We cannot change people. We cannot, you know, we can only change, you know, our situations. We can't change for other people their situations if they're not taking the actions that they need to take. We can influence them and we can empower them, but we cannot, you know, we cannot be able to actually change their situations if they're not willing to take that step. You know, it's like, for example, you know, there's a key saying that in English that they say, you can take the horse to the water, but you cannot force it to drink the water. So it's just reminding ourselves constantly of that. And then now, this is an exercise for you. I want you, it's going to be a 3 to 5 minutes exercise. That's going to be quick. Don't worry, you're not going to have to share it with anybody, but I hope you have a pen and paper around you, or if you don't have, you can always just, you know, jot down some notes on your phone, and just write, you know, write this core beliefs inventory. Excuse me. So basically just asking yourself, what are the core beliefs that you have about yourself right now, basically? And then the next question would be, what are the core beliefs that you have about your past, you know, based on the experiences that you've gone through? What are the core beliefs? So if you have like 1 or 2 points about each of them. And then the next thing is, what core beliefs do you have about the, you know, events? You know, for example, currently, what core beliefs have you formed about, let's say, the pandemic, or you know, something different, might be something different. And then what core beliefs do you have about your environment? So your environment can be the people around you, let's say your, you know, your work colleagues, or your family, or your friends, or let's say just the community that you live in, basically, or your whole community, basically. And then what core beliefs do you have about your health, basically? And then what core beliefs do you have about your future? The next thing is, what core beliefs do you have about, you know, your relationships? And you know, your relationships involves all the ships that Sasha talked about earlier on. So it's just about all the ships. And then also, what core beliefs have you formed about others? So I'm just going to give you 3 to 5 minutes. Once you're done, just type in the chat and say yes, and then we can progress forward. Do we have anything in the chat?
Not as yet, Khadija.
Thanks, Sasha. Okay, I'll just progress because I'm conscious of time. You can just, do this. You can either even just take a screenshot and just do this as a practice for yourself later on if you like. But it would be, lovely if you can, do it within the session or just after the session, basically. So now we've talked about a lot about the past and the unresolved past and everything, and us trying to interpret this to make meaning out of this so that we can be able to move ourselves and actually transform, our lives to be better and actually get the wisdom. I call it blessings wrapped in thorns, basically all the thorns that we've gone through, being able to get those blessings that were wrapped in those thorns, basically, and actually making meaning out of it. So one of the ways of doing this is starting to create the new beliefs. We've spoken a lot about new beliefs because it all starts with what's in our mind. I think this is the greatest machine that we have in our body, basically, and being able to start creating the new beliefs. And how do you do that? How do you start creating new beliefs is using visual cues to practice the new beliefs, because our mind is repeats what it knows, and it likes to repeat the familiar, basically. So we have to make the new belief familiar to the mind, basically. And how do we do that? For example, in the morning, I think it was Faiza who talked about someone feeling that they're not good enough. So to be able to start creating the new beliefs is starting to write affirmations on post-it notes. So for example, I am lovable, and sticking it on the mirror, or somewhere that you can be able to easily see every day. It can even be your bathroom mirror, when you're, let's say, you're brushing your teeth or washing your face, you get to see that first thing, and then, I am enough, and, I am perfectly imperfect, so it's having those positive affirmations, and the more you repeat it, the more your mind will actually believe in it. So it's just about repetition, and we repeat what when we repeat it, it will become something familiar, and we can be able to actually, our belief system is informed through that. So what happens is our belief system informs, our experiences, and then when we recreate and create new beliefs, our experiences, and we get to see different outcomes that will inform our beliefs again. So it's like a circle, basically. And then having, the mental prompts, sort of like reminding ourselves. It can be, going back to, this our spiritual script. In this case, it's the Quran. Going back and, reminding ourselves and learning from the stories of the Prophet, and being able to get hope through that process, and being able to create new beliefs, and reminding ourselves that there's always good, and everything has a good ending towards it. Whatever the situation we're in that situation, we can be able to create a better experience through that. And then the other aspect, which is really key to this process, is having a safe space community to be accountable to. So the safe space community to be accountable to, because the thing is, both Sasha mentioned in the morning, and I reiterate this, is we cannot be able to only to build and transform ourselves if we do not have that community that will enable us to help us through this process, because this is something new. And as I mentioned earlier, the brain likes the familiar. So when something is not familiar to us, obviously one of the things that our brain the design of our brain is basically, it likes to be comfortable. It doesn't like to be placed in uncertainty. And that's why we get frustrated when we have, something like the pandemic, because there's no certainty to it, right? But that's what the nature of life is. And that's what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us through, through the Quran and through the also like with the prophetic teachings. So there's no certainty, but unfortunately our brain, the way it's been designed, we want that certainty, we want that comfort, we want to feel we want to just feel that we are comfortable. And one of the ways when we're going into new a new area, the brain sort of like, it doesn't like it doesn't like change. That's what the truth is. The brain doesn't like change. So one of the things that can really help us through this process is having that safe space community and being able to learn through that process, and also learning from other people's stories, because we can always see ourselves in someone else's story and we can learn through that process, and creating that safe space community and being able to be accountable to the safe space community. Because what happens most of the time, and this is why, like, most of the time when we set goals for ourselves and we don't achieve them when we are all by ourselves. Why? Because we don't have anybody to be accountable to. We don't have anybody to be able to ensure that we can actually do what we said that we're going to do. We don't, we for example put a promise to ourselves that we're going to start a healthy lifestyle, or let's say, for example, going to sleep at a certain time that is good, so that you can get enough hours to sleep. And then what happens is, when it comes at nighttime, let's say you can be busy on the phone, or you can be busy on something else, and you end up feeling bad the next day that you didn't have enough sleep, and also you're just feeling very tired. So it's just about having that safe space community is really key, and that is what this is all about. I would really like for us to work together in in having that safe space community, so that we can all transform our lives and make and become change makers. Because I believe knowledge is power. When we have the knowledge and we see someone else has overcome certain things that is that we can relate to, then yes, we can be able to actually see ourselves through that person and tell ourselves, if she can do it, I can do it too, basically. So now I am just gonna give you a brief about my story, because I do believe, as I mentioned earlier, that we we cannot become we cannot be teaching, or we cannot write a book without becoming the book, basically. So this is this is how I'm going to be doing this. And yeah, I'm just going to put in some skin in and just let you know who Khadija is, and how I was able to actually transform my life to be able to right now when I look back, it's actually barely unrecognizable, because Alhamdulillah, I am so grateful I was able to find that healing and also the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and being able to push myself forward no matter what. So as you can see in your screen, obviously I, like many of us, I did have an unresolved past. I basically, as a child, my parents split when I was 10 years old. And obviously that was very traumatic for me. I did not know how to make sense of that. And I felt so bad. And I felt, I wanted things to really change. But obviously I didn't really have any control over this. And I didn't have any control about, my parents, relationship. And so I was just trying to make meaning out of it. And I remember at that age, as I was processing I don't even remember actually processing this basically, because it was just too much. But as I was in that situation, I was just trying to sort of make sense of everything. I remember I did go to, at one point, I did go to my teacher, and I had seen this advert for a competition. I was a very competitive, I liked, in terms of my academics, I liked to, do a lot of, academic work basically. So I saw this English essay. I was only 10 then, and I was just trying to find a way of being able to, I would say now looking back, I think, it was a way of trying to numb the pain. And I saw this essay, this essay competition, and I wanted to take part. I grew up in Uganda, basically. And that essay said that, if you win the competition, you would have a chance to be able to go to Amsterdam, and you would be able to present, your essay in Amsterdam with other competitors in front of a panel. So that in itself just made me, I just became motivated, and I really wanted to take part in this. So what I did, I went to my English teacher. I remember, they were in the staff room, and they were in the staff room, and there were many teachers there. And I went and told him that I want to take part in this competition. Would you be able to guide me? And unfortunately, that experience was a very negative experience, because I remember, he said, we are not able to help you. Your dad is rich, so let him take you to Amsterdam. I'm sorry, we cannot do that. So I went back home, and obviously that really affected me, and I was, sad, and I felt bad about it. And yeah, so that affected me as well. And also I had some negative experiences in school. I did encounter bullying. I remember in my early years, I had, encountered a lot of bullying in school. And when I went into secondary school, I encountered some bullying from, girls. And when I was in my A levels, actually, I was falling sick consistently. I was falling sick consistently, and unfortunately, the boys and other students would make negative comments and say that I am just faking being sick. Which obviously was sad, because I was in and out. I studied in a boarding school basically, so I was in and out of school, and sometimes I was actually, I was actually admitted in hospital, so because I was asthmatic. So yeah, so it was just, that unresolved past really affected me, and I had this consistent fear and, shame, the shame of the experience, because back then, and even up to now, in the Muslim community, there's a lot of stigma around, divorce and marriages ending. So I had a lot, of shame around that, because, obviously my parents' marriage ended. So that really affected me. And not knowing this, and this was, I came to learn this later on, but all those experiences actually dysregulated my immune system, and that's why I was having consistent, health challenges. So when I mentioned earlier that we can be, we can go to the doctor and just treat the symptoms, but unfortunately, if we don't, heal the inner wounds that we have within ourselves, what will happen is we will just be, it's like putting a bandage on a wound basically, and just covering the wound consistently. And then, yeah, unconsciously, I lived in this victim mindset, and, felt, helpless about my situation and, the experiences. So I also unconsciously, created trauma bonds. We haven't covered trauma bonds today, but trauma bonds is like when, for example, you make friends, and somehow you do attract friends who felt, who had that, victim mindset and felt helpless about the situation, basically. And that would be the bond that we were bonding on over and over again. And then the other thing is, yeah, the other thing is I unconsciously like took on other people's, other people's stuff and allowed it to affect me. For example, if I was, let's say, in a scenario whereby, yes, someone else obviously is, maybe they had a bad day, and that would consistently affect me, and I felt like, I felt, I consistently felt like it was consistently affecting me, and I took that upon myself all the time, basically. And yeah, so anyways, moving on from that, obviously, I am so grateful, first of all, Alhamdulillah, that, I've been able to find my own healing, and my mission is to be able to help other people so that they can be able to find their on healing and live a fulfilling life. Alhamdulillah, now I am obviously living a fulfilling life. I did have, a spiritual awakening and, cellular awakening through this experience. And for me, it was my own marriage that was able to enable me learn about, all these things that I was carrying within myself unconsciously that I did not know about. And through that process, I learned about the inside out approach, and I was able to change and transform myself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that he does not change the situation of a people until they change what's within themselves. And through that process, I was able to become aware and detach myself from the clever stories. I also got to understand and diagnose the problem and find healing. As I say there in the quote, is we cannot solve what we don't know. So for me, I did not know that all these past experiences were weighing me down and making and bringing me those negative experiences, basically. So it was working through that and going back and doing all the inner work that I needed to do, so that I could be able to live the wholehearted living and purpose driven life that I am living right now. So Alhamdulillah, I have been able to make a lot of changes in my life, and I've been able to find my own healing. Alhamdulillah, I say the power of me too, because I know I'm not alone. I know there are other people who've gone through similar experiences, because through this process, I was able to, build that safe space community. I worked a lot with a lot of other people, and it really was reassuring that I wasn't alone. And also biohacking my own mindset and creating the new beliefs, the new beliefs that are now serving me to the best, and serving the purpose and the mission that I'm doing now. And also, those experiences and the spiritual awakening particularly was able to cement my tawakkul, the reliance in God, and my inner muscles, the faith, obviously the tawakkul muscle, the faith in myself muscle, the trust muscle, my trust muscle, the forgiveness muscle, the forgiveness muscle, the resilience muscle that obviously we are focusing on in this session, and also, the honesty muscle. Most of the time, we can be able to sort of like, we know that honesty is the best policy, but it's not just with others. We also have to be really honest with ourselves. So it has to be, that process as well. And building all those muscles enabled me to not only move my life forward, but I was also able to finish my PhD, because I was going through a lot of things when I was doing my PhD, and that enabled me to, you know, to finish my PhD and be able to move my life forward. And you know, I know that, you know, there's hope for everybody, because I've seen that. I've seen that for myself, and I'm here to, you know, to assure you that there's hope for you wherever you are at in your journey. And I'm here to support you through this process. I will not say that it's not a painful process. It is painful, but in the end, we need to remind ourselves everything good has to go through some pain. You know, for the mother to give birth, she has to go through that pain of giving birth. So you know, for the diamond to become a diamond, it has to go through a lot of pressure, and, you know, to be that diamond, you know, that coal needs to go through a lot of pressure. You know, for the pearl to emerge, the oyster has to go through a lot of pressure, so that's what the nature of you know, of every beautiful thing, um, so that every beautiful thing can be able to you know, to be born. Basically, it has to go through, you know, the struggle and you know, the pain, basically, so that we can be able to become strong and have courage and be able to be more confident in ourselves, and have, you know, and go back to that fitra that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us, basically. And then also through that process, you know, obviously I was able to build more hope, and I was able to you know, learn a lot more, you know, through obviously the stories in the Quran, and having deeper awareness of myself, of the situations, of whatever it was, so that I can be able to move myself forward. And then accepting and finding the blessings and lessons that are wrapped in thorns. I wouldn't be doing this work that I have dedicated my life to, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses it more, and, you know, blesses you all that who are here today, you know, because I was able to find the blessings and lessons, and I want to share it with as many people as possible, and I can be able to help as many people as possible, because I know most of us are living, and you know, you know, are feeling, you know, there's something keeping us stuck, but we may not know what is keeping us stuck. So today's session was just to enable us to go back and try to think about our own experience, and start making meaning out of it, and start finding ways of being able to move ourselves forward. And as I mentioned, my mission is to help Muslim women and teens to overcome their unresolved past, to become the best versions of themselves, and make an impact in the society. In the end, we want to make as much impact as possible. And for us to be able to do that, we need to have, you know, worked on ourselves. You know, they say that a teacher cannot be a teacher, you know, an excellent teacher, until they go through, you know, those experiences that they're teaching. Then they can be able to become, you know, an excellent teacher, basically. So obviously, as I mentioned, my approach is a holistic approach, and at the core for myself, obviously, it was the spiritual nourishment. When I talk about the spiritual nourishment, was the process that I had to go through, you know, to be able to move myself forward. And that spiritual nourishment came from the Quran, and the Quran and the Sunnah, and obviously, you know, the Hadith. So ensuring that, you know, going back to that, and that nourished me and gave me more strength, and, you know, relating back to those stories in the Quran, the stories of Yusuf alayhi salam and the story of Musa alayhi salam. For me, you know, Surah to Yusuf and Surah to Taha were the core stories that I really related with my own life. And, you know, I'm sure we will all find our stories in the Quran when we go back and you know, really look into the Quran, because stories. The Quran is a collection of stories, and that can enable us to be able to move ourselves forward. So that, informed my mental nourishment, which is the mental resilience and, the belief system that we've been talking about. And then also through that process, I had a complete transformation of my health, nourishment. As I mentioned earlier, that my immune system was dysregulated through that process, and I was diagnosed with autoimmune conditions, and that and being able to just completely change to a lifestyle that actually enriches me. And now, my because initially I used to like just do certain diets and stop at some process, but I've been very consistent through that process because I've been able to go back and heal those those wounds that I had in the beginning, and be able to enrich myself, and through the spiritual, the mental, and also like the physical nourishment, consistently doing exercises. One of the greatest exercises that I would say that I found through this process that enabled me to regulate my my body and my system is the breath work, and the Pilates exercise, which involves a lot of breath work that normally just helps through that process. The other thing is also like when we recite the Quran, we have the vagus nerve, which connects with us basically. So just being able to use that has been amazing, and I can I do actually invite you to try that. The other thing is also the whole nourishment, the lifestyle nourishment. So being able to spend certain hour like time outside, going for walks, going for hikes, all that. So it was a holistic approach, and it's not one thing or the other. And also it involves a lot of reading and everything. So yeah, so what I'm bringing to you today is a holistic approach, and I would like to now invite you, if you are committed to your own healing, and to your own healing, my question is, are you committed to your own healing? And just knowing that your outside world does not need to change for you to be happy and have inner peace. Do you want to find happiness and peace despite the uncertainty and individual circumstances that you've gone through, despite the pandemic? Do you want to find an abundant life that will enable you to succeed in this world and the hereafter? If the answer is yes, because this journey needs someone who's committed, and you need to be really committed, because you cannot be able to change until you find you first have that commitment, because it's not gonna be a smooth road. I would be lying to you if it's gonna be a smooth road. It will have a lot of bumps, but in the end, it's just reminding yourself that you're doing this to be the best version of yourself. And for you to be able to do that, then you'll need to go through some things, but through that process, we're here to support you. And today, my invitation for you is I am offering a free one-to-one discovery call with you, and we can be able to customize a coaching approach that suits your own needs. I don't believe in the one size fits all. So I believe in everybody based on their circumstances, experiences. They need a customized coaching approach. So I am inviting you for that. And it's going to be obviously based on the holistic approach that I've discussed. And if you're going to commit, are you going to commit to the question now is, are you going to commit to your healing so you can pursue your purpose? Or will time push down that, or will time pass by through you trying to push down that yearning for change that you feel inside. So I am now gonna open the platform back to you, the audience. These questions are for you. And if you're interested in the one-to-one, free discovery call, you can be able to type in the chat, and I will be able to send you, an email after this webinar. And thank you very much for staying with us. And we appreciate so much for you staying with us until now. So I'm just going to open back to you. If you have any questions, if you have anything that you wanted to like add to this, or any clarity that you would like, I would invite that now.